Welcome. Today we're going to discuss the technique obscure clause, its execution, some of the things that can go wrong during its execution, and just general things you should know about the technique and how to fix it. So let's start out with the ideal attack. So the ideal attack is the left hand shoulder grab to your right shoulder from the right rear flank. So keep in mind we have several techniques that do this, and we deal with them slightly different. So like one of them where we step in closer to our opponent, but if you notice, that's a potential problem. So the first thing we do there is to pin the hand to make sure that that doesn't hit us while we deliver the strike. We have some where we walk away from the opponent, so we don't necessarily have to worry about that, so we just bring a cover up without having to pin the hand. This one's going to do a variation of those where we're using the same arm and we're using it with the elbow to prevent that from happening as we step in without having to use the left, because we decided we're going to use our left hand to strike the opponent. So that being said, the next maneuver can be done slightly different. You can do it with circles or you can do it with line. So what I mean by that, and this goes back to what we always talk about where we have short versions of the technique, middle versions, and long versions. Well, think of it degrees of, we have an end of a spectrum and then the opposite end of the spectrum. We have a really short version, and then you have really long versions of the techniques as well. We typically talk about the short, middle, and long. Today we're going to talk about the really short and the really long, but then focusing on the ideal long version of the technique. So here, if I was to do my block, I can start delivering my heel palm and then immediately shift this into a backup mass and delivering it linear, sending him away, and me being able to leave, potentially exposing the arm by straightening it and maybe continuing to break on the way out. The other version would be the more circular version where I'm continuing to circle because I want to get my hand to the shoulder as fast as I can to ensure he doesn't let go of the arm or my shoulder so that I can get the lock or break. So depending on which one you're looking for or your intent is would determine which way you would do the heel pump with the left hand. Regardless, the right hand should be done the same way. I want to push the elbow up to block that arm and line up this heel pump so I can hit and claw all in one motion so that I can get to the arm. So now let's talk about that being the really short version, the short version of the technique. I get to here and then I immediately reverse the strike, set my position, and deliver the strikes without any foot maneuvers. This would be the short version of obscure claws. So now let's go to the middle version of the technique where I hit here and I want to get more power. This guy's really big and I really want to lock this up, so I'm going to step to try to break that and pull him more. So the problem here, if you notice, I did distance with rotation. The problem here is that now if I wanted to hit him, I have to take extra time rotating back to be able to get to him. So this might be a good time to break and continue to leave. So a better way or a different way to be able to do that is to do the distance without the rotation, which would mean I go into a crossover. So if you notice, I haven't committed to leaving. I'm still getting the lock because we're going up at a 45. I'm not trying to pull down. I'm trying to think up. This starts to cancel him. Now keep in mind my left hand is here as a check because he does still have his right hand available, and I need to be able to pick that up at any time. From here, the middle version could return to step in to hit him and then do the technique, or he counters my move, which then leads me to I have to counter his move. So he steps forward to alleviate the pressure. We're in a fight, so I'm going to continue to step forward and do the technique. And this is where we talked about the really long version of the technique. I can continue to walk and he can continue to walk until I decide to finally stop him. So this is where you can go again from one end of the spectrum to the opposite end of the spectrum. So now let's talk about the full long version of the technique on its ideal phase. We get the two hits, we double step. Now I'm going to turn into him to do this back knuckle to the floating rib, and then align my weapon before delivering the next strike. So a lot of the times we hit and start turning without having the alignment correctly. So you want to make sure that once you hit to the body, that my hand goes behind what it wants to strike, and then we're going to do scissoring. So remember, scissoring is a form of vice-like where the hands are not in line with one another. So the heel pump is going to go to the body, the back knuckle is going to go to the back of the neck. So the idea is that this is going to create the base, and this is going to create the strike that goes through the base. So we line it up, and I use the rotation, keeping the elbow anchored, lining everything up to deliver the strike. So now, just like at the beginning, we had different variations. The end for the middle knuckle strike could also be done in different variations. So before we talk about the variations, let's talk about how to actually deliver it. So I don't want to deliver the back knuckle with an unanchored elbow, or the middle knuckle. The idea is to have my elbow anchored. Remember, anchored elbows are your friend, and we're going to be hitting on a downward motion, and the idea is to hit in that little hole there between his neck. This could also obviously be done to the face, cheekbone, sternum, whatever you want, but the ideal face goes here because we're talking about fitting. Remember, we're taking one of our weapons into a hole so that it fits. Also, an open-ended triangle or contouring would be another way to think about it. So let's get into the two ways to be able to deliver this. I can either do this with torque, where I rotate counter-directional clockwise and deliver my strike, in which case I would then immediately head out because I'm already rotating in the direction of leaving. Now keep in mind, I'm doing that after I hit. I leave. I'm not trying to leave as I strike. So if you are going to do this version, you want to hit and then cover out. If you don't want to disengage and you'd want to continue, you might want to do this more as backup mass, and then using foot maneuvers, I would continue to step forward. And that would keep me engaged with my opponent, where I can then continue to do other stuff, or I can choose to cover out. So let's do a quick walkthrough one more time. Remember, we're being attacked with an applied minor from the right rear flank with the left. We're not pinning or checking with the left. We're actually doing everything with the right. We're stepping into the opponent by checking with our elbow, aligning our heel palms up. This could either be done both circular or circular and linear, depending on what you want. The idea here is that I'm going to lock up the arm going up to crank the shoulder. Remember, we're going to do foot maneuvers as needed. You can do the short version, step and come back, or the double step, which is the version we're going to do right now. So I'm going to step, keeping control of that hand by checking. I'm going to hit low, line everything up so I can deliver my scissor. And then again, this could either be done with backup mass going forward or with rotation to cover out and leave. We're going to do it one more time without the walkthrough, just so you can see the execution without the explanation. We hope this video helps you. Thank you very much.